Hey YouTube, good morning. So it's swarm season and I caught my first swarm this week. And I pulled it down off the tree last night, and I thought I would just do a quick video on hiving a swarm, capturing a swarm, and a few of my techniques around swarms. First of all, this is my style of swarm trap. It's based off of Dr. Seeley's 40 liters. It's essentially a deep nuke times 2. Sometimes I strap nukes together like this, hanging on a tree. I try to put it up where like 1 or 2 steps on a ladder is as high as I have to go, and preferably not have to go up on a ladder, but obviously that depends on the situation and the location. What I've got here, and the reason I'm not showing you me pulling it down, is the first tip I want to give you. Take your swarms down at night, or at least after sunset. And the reason is all the foragers will be back. And my trick on getting the bees out of the entrance is to use a spray bottle and to make a little rainstorm for them. If you squirt the front of a hive with a little bit of a mist, all those guard bees will just walk right inside as if it was raining. And then what I do is I use some of this, this is like cheap insulate, like air filter material that you really wouldn't ever use in your house because it's not filter enough. But this allows me to close up this entrance and still allow them to breathe. There is 1,000 ways of closing an entrance. You can use the discs that go around. If you have a horizontal entrance like this, whatever, you just got to close it. That's the important thing. And close it but allow ventilation. The reason is once you close these bees up in here, depending on how long you leave them there overnight or whatever, they need to be able to breathe. And if it's really, really hot, you need to provide adequate ventilation. So that's how I close them up, and I think that's important. Another thing I'd like to remind you, if you do hive your swarms at night and you do use a light, ensure, or it's preferable to have a red light mode, as the bees cannot see red light. But if you have a white light on here, you are going to be the beacon for them trying to defend their new home. So red light as an option will help you if you need lighting. Doing it right at dusk is probably the best way, where you don't need a lot of extra light, but you can't always dictate that. And the last point I think I'll make is moving them and how far you move them. I don't have the luxury of having a lot of out yards to move a swarm, a few miles away to where they'll have to reorient. So in my situation, I have to force a reorienting scenario. And the way I do this is I've got a little hive box here. I'm going to put this in the standard style nook. The entrance is now going to be going straight towards this viburnum hedge. And the reason is this. The foragers in here, when they run out of a hive, they remember their last orientation and they just keep on going. When they run out of this hive with that entrance, they're going to run into this viburnum and they're going to start doing figure eights going, whoa, where am I? It does help with the reorientation to ensure they don't have a nice runway when they fly out of the hive. Some people put a branch or a stick or some leaves right in front of the entrance. That helps reorientation also. If you do have the luxury of leaving them in the swarm trap for about 3 days before you rehive them, keeping them ventilated, problem is water at that point, they will automatically reorient. They kind of lose their orientation after about 3 days. Okay, so that is all about the tips on getting the hive out off the tree and back into your yard. The last thing I'll say before I crack this open, I always recommend suiting up before you open a swarm. This is like a box of chocolates. You're really not sure what you're gonna get. They could be nasty or they just, really disoriented and angry. So be prepared in cracking a swarm trap open for the first time, just to protect yourself a little bit by suiting up. Wearing gloves, things like that, choose that on your own, but protect your face just to ensure that. Okay, let me pop this open and we'll see what we got. Oh gosh, one more tip. When do you take the hive off of the tree? My recommendation is wait until you see pollen going into the hive. What that means, if you see pollen going into the hive, that means the queen is laying and they are raising brood. If they have brood on their combs, they will stay with that brood after I box them much easier than if they just got in there that day and they're still making wax. So leave them on the tree until you see pollen going in. The longer you leave them there, the more they will orient there. But as soon as you see pollen going in, more than likely there's larvae in here they are feeding. And when I move them into this box, those nurse bees are going to stay with that larva now. So pollen going in is the last clue there. All right, now I think I'm ready to crack the lid. Let's see what we got. Here they come. That tells me we've got a number of bees in here that are ready to go. All right, hear them fanning? Yeah, ventilation is what they're doing. Okay, I'm not getting stung yet, so they're just fanning. Now it's a look for the queen, because this queen is going to get marked special, and I'm going to talk a little bit about marking a swarm queen and how I do it. Yeah, they're just all buzzing out of here, reorienting. So this is going to be a little bit of a mess. I do see some white wax in here, so they are making wax, which is beautiful to see, because it means they're doing it on their own without any one-to-one syrup. Nice foundationless frame I've got in here on the edge, and they have got stored nectar and honey and a lot of white wax that they're making here. And I'm quickly looking for eggs, and I do see eggs on the outside frame there. Looking for the queen. I'm gonna just go ahead and set this in here. I'm gonna look for the queen quickly, and if I don't see her as I get each frame in here, then I will look a little slower for the last one. Oh yeah, this is a good sized swarm. This is nice. Look at that pollen they've already collected. Wow. So looking at this, they have been in here about at least a week. I checked this trap last weekend, probably on Sunday, and there was no swarm in it. And I found this swarm yesterday, which is a Thursday. So I'm guessing they went in on, wow, I'm gonna say Monday morning maybe. Pollen and eggs. Looking for the queen. This is gonna go. This is gonna explode. This is not gonna stay in a 5-framer very long. But you see, with this box I've got here, I'm just gonna stack another 5-frame on top of it. This is a stackable. Showing you guys the bees. Oop, little shake there. I'm not getting stung, so that little shake didn't upset them too much. Oh yeah, I've got hatched larva in here, and hatched larva in the little C shape means at least 3 days ago she was laying eggs. So I know I checked this on Sunday, so but this looks like it might have been here longer than that. But this is my favorite part about beekeeping, hiving swarms, especially ones that are not nasty. And this one has proven that it is not nasty, even though I'm disrupting them. Look at these bees. They've got all 5 of these frames all formed up. Beautiful yellow wax. She's got this laid up. This is going to be a brood factory, to use a Michael Palmer term. Don't see her yet. There's a lot of bees on here, so depending on where she's laying, she could be covered up a little bit. So with every single one of these frames having larvae on it so far, they're not going to leave this hive. They're going to stay with this. And here's another foundationless. Look at these bees just draped on there, making that wax. She won't be on that, most likely, so I'm just going to put this in here gently and let them keep working that. So now, quick check of the box to see if I see a queen walking on side, because there are a lot of bees in here. This is my previous facial sponge with some lemongrass oil on it in a baggie that I'm going to replace with my new technique of my little gummy worms. All right, I see the queen now. She's running on this foundationless frame. She's right here, and she is a beauty, unmarked. So she's nobody else's queen and not one of mine. Now I'll show you how I mark a swarm queen. Do not hurt her abdomen. But, so my technique is I don't know if she was born this year or last year. So I put last year's color on the bottom and this year's color on top. And what that does is it gives me a special mark that means, and when I see a double marked queen anywhere in a hive, I know that it was a Chuck Cook marked swarm queen. So I'm gonna give her a yellow dot as a base color, and then I put a little red dot on top. So there's my yellow. I'll let that dry a few seconds. Then I'm gonna put some red right on top. Just a dot. She's got two colors on her now. And because I need to be a little bit rough with this hive for a few minutes to get them organized, I do not want to hurt her, so she's going into a cage, and she is fine. Double marked queen, ready to hive. Now, the number of bees here, once they get settled, I'm going to put a second stack on these guys quickly, and I'm going to give them, they don't need any food. They're making their own wax really, really good right now. Remember my rules about not setting the queen cage anywhere where you can squish that lid open. Set her there for a second. You guys are drawing so well. I'm gonna put a second box on top of these guys right now. Make sure I've got the right foundations in here. I'm gonna put a mix of foundationless on the edges and solid in the middle. This will give them some structure, and honestly, if I want some of their brood or their wax, I'm gonna use the foundation stuff first. All right, so she is ready to go, and there she is, double marked, back in the hive. I'm gonna brush them in. A little bit of an inner cover, and I made these new telescoping lids from some old full-size telescoping lids. I'm going to try to use them, keep the water out a little bit more. All right, so there we go. I found the queen. I do have this swarm box with a lot of bees in it here, so I'm just going to give them a way of walking out. And finding that entrance back there, took my ventilation out. That's it. Let me summarize. Suit up. Get the swarm trap in a location and the new entrance going somewhere where they will reorient. More than likely, some of these bees are going to forage back to the location where this swarm trap was located. Just by the age of the swarm, how much wax they had drawn, and the brood that was in there. They've been there a few days. So some of these foragers are definitely oriented over there. I'm not worried about that too much. They will find a new home. The fact that she's laying in here has a great brood pattern and a lot of larvae. There's gonna be a lot of nurse bees that stay inside this hive in order to grow it out. I've got some extra space so they can build up, let them draw wax. Depending on how much food there was in there, I would have put feed on it, but there's plenty of honey in there they're doing on their own. I will feed it if they need it in the next few days. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hive the first swarm of the year, February, last week of February is when it was caught here in Jacksonville, Florida. Have a great day.